Hi, this is Steve, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Tech Leader Talk podcast. Would you like to learn tips to grow your business from a CEO and co founder of multiple startups? If so, then you're in the right place. Today, I'm talking with Nigel Eccles, who's the former CEO and co founder of FanDuel. And today, he's the CEO and co founder of Vault. His latest company, Vault, is a new creator platform, especially for musicians, that uses the power of Web3 to unlock the next generation of fan experiences. Nigel tells us more about the unique features of Vault during today's discussion and kind of this missing piece of the market that they're looking to fill and provide fans with new and unique experiences. So Nigel also talks about his experience with launching and growing several companies. And he talks about how he and his team come up with ideas for new companies and new products, and then how they decide which ones to implement. Nigel has a passion for building online communities, and he talks about how tech companies and other businesses can successfully leverage online communities to help grow and strengthen their business. So you're going to enjoy this conversation with Nigel, and I know you're going to get some valuable insights on how you can grow your own company. So let's get to the conversation with Nigel. Hi, Nigel. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Hey. So I gave the audience a little bit of background about kind of your history and what you do, but I always love, and the audience does too, loves to hear your journey, kind of the backstory. What led you into the kind of work that you're doing, that you did with FanDuel, and then that you're doing today
Yeah,
with Vault?
yeah. So the first my first taste of startups was 2000 during the dot-com era. And uh, I was a consultant at the time, and I saw a company, Flutter.com, which was a betting exchange in the UK. And I just really loved the concept so much that I called them up and convinced them to give me a job. That was my first taste of startups. And then from there, I'd always, I I went and worked at another startup, and then I went back into consultancy for a while. But I knew I just wanted to start my own company. And a few years later, I sort of felt it was like one of those sort of now or never moments where I was kind of starting to go into the climb the corporate ladder, and I knew my mortgage was only going to get bigger, and my responsibilities were only going to get greater. And so if I didn't jump, I would, I probably might never do it. And so at that point, I quit my job and then with four other co-founders, started the company, which became FanDuel. But interesting enough, the company we started actually was a totally different product. It was an online news prediction market, which we created, which was fun, but had a terrible business model. And also it was the middle of the financial crisis. And so 2 years later, that was 2007, 2009, we pivoted and became FanDuel. And that became like a whole new chapter.
Okay, interesting. So I guess that's kind of a different story. You started Fan, or the original company, whatever it was named.
Yeah,
To go a whole different way. What was it? What was it? Just that the market didn't look right, or what?
Yeah.
What caused you then to jump to something that, at least to me, seems kind of different?
Yeah, so there was a real shift in the market. So prior to 2008, early 2008, there was a lot of startups that were sort of ad-based, so like Dig or even like Facebook. And so there was definitely a movement of don't worry about business model, build a product that gets a lot of engagement, and then we'll figure out business model later. And so early 2008, that's the product we had. And we had a lot of engagement. Whenever the financial crisis happened in end of 2008, very like what's happening today, suddenly everyone's like, no, we've got to figure out how to monetize users, how to like have a really solid business model. Because even if you have tons of engagement, who's going to pay you, right? Because we're in the middle of a tough financial situation. And so that's what sort of drove us. And Hubda was a prediction game, which if we said, well, why don't we make it real money? Well, the problem was that you would basically become a betting product. And so we looked at the marketplace and we said, well, we can't do that, but fantasy is a prediction game. It's got a fairly clear regulatory status, and it's very popular. And so we could build that, and so that's what we did.
Okay, interesting. Well, that certainly seems to be a fairly popular
Oh yeah,
thing
it's like a day and like something like 30 today, 30 or 40 billion people play it every year.
Wow. Yeah. I've got some friends that are into the fantasy sports and running in at least a dozen different leagues at the same time and managing other teams. And
it's a great. It's honestly, it's a great product. It's a very fun, engaging game. It has the semblance that you have control. That you, although oftentimes I think you get realization you don't have as much control as you think. I think it's a really good product.
Okay. So what were the strategies as you were building FanDuel? What was working the best to grow that company?
So, and I think this is, well, certainly this was the case for FanDuel, which is step one. It's funny, I was chatting to a lot of musicians last week because that's in the industry I'm in now, and I said, well, here's how it works. Step one, have a great product, and that's if you're a musician or if you're a startup. If you don't have a great product, it doesn't matter how good your marketing is. Your product still sucks and nobody's going to use it. So we built something that was really compelling and we could see our users were really engaging on it. And then step two was to find like repeatable acquisition channels. So with FanDuel, what we did is we basically, and this is very early on, figured out like paid marketing, influencer marketing, and really lent into it. And so we were very quantitative. And so we knew the lifetime value of a user was probably around $400, $500. And we realized, and the first year value was about maybe $60 to $80. And we were like, look, if we can acquire users for about $50, we have a really good business here. And so that's what we did in year one. Our acquisition cost about $50, and we spent we spent maybe 20,000. Then year two we spent about a couple of 100,000. Then we spent like several million, and while maintaining those basic unit economics of acquiring users for $50.
Okay, interesting. So today, to kind of fast forward a little bit, you're the CEO and co-founder of Vault. Tell us a little bit about Vault and kind of what makes it unique in the marketplace today.
Yeah, so Vault is a new digital music format. So obviously, my sort of history is much more in the sports market, but so being fairly new to music, really only got into it about 2 years ago on the business side, it just astounded me. Music's cultural relevance and reach and importance was dramatically out of kilter with the size of the business, the amount of revenue they generated. Like just some of the stats were like just quite stunning that someone could consume thousands of hours of music and pay $120 for that experience. Yep. And it just really struck us that music was really undermonetized. The other thing that we thought was really interesting was those top fans. So if you take a product where people are really engaged, whether it's fantasy sports betting, video gaming, your top fans are going to generate thousands of dollars, right? And so that's if they've played video games, it's because they're buying games, they're buying downloadable content. They're spending a lot of money on it. With sports betting or DFS, it's because they're playing the product a lot and they're spending a lot on it. That actually isn't true with music. With Spotify, I pay $120 and I consume thousands of hours of music. And we felt well, streaming was good in that it combated piracy, which definitely was a problem. It wasn't very good for the top fans. And it certainly wasn't good for the artists. And the problem was that there wasn't a format that I, as a consumer, could collect, right? So basically, there wasn't an incentive for me there wasn't a format that I could actually interact with. And so we basically said, okay, we need to create that format. And that's essentially what Vault is. It's just a music format where artists can put unreleased or live or alternative versions of music. And wrap it in that format, and then sell out to their top fans.
Okay. Through their
And so it's a
platform. So you've got
well,
Spotify and
it's
Apple to get the music, but if you want more or deeper or more of a
yeah,
fan experience.
that's right. You'll come. But what we've done is we've done it as a format. We've actually open sourced that format. So what
Hmm.
we're working on is having other people to be able to play music in that format. So yes, you might have bought it in Vault, but you could play it on any one of these other players.
Okay. Interesting. So is this going to benefit all musicians, or does, I have friends that are
Yeah, it's
up and coming, and they make almost no money.
almost
the,
no money. Yeah,
the
and so
tip jar at the local place where they do the
right. Yeah,
gigs, but
yeah.
is this going to maybe help
So
some of them?
So we think this format works for. We always joke that it works for any musician with fans. If you don't have fans, we just can't help you there, right?
Yeah.
But if you do have fans, then we can help you because we can help you create something that's really special. And so some of our artists are small emerging artists that have a very small number of fans. But what we do is we help them create something that is rare. So whenever we create these vaults, we might cap it at 25, 50, or 100 versions. Um, so there's only 50. If we create 50, there'll only ever be 50 of this in the world. And so if you're buying it, you have something unique and special. So we will work with that artist and we'll create this small number. So it works great for these emerging artists, but it also would be a format that would work for some of the biggest artists. So for example, Miley Cyrus dropped Flowers earlier this year. Um, if we were working with her, we would create, one that's rare. Maybe it only has 10,000 copies in that instance. And we would work with her and say, okay, why don't we create a special version of that song with some unique content that's only in this format? And then we release that to your fans. So we actually think that our belief is that this, for artists from a revenue perspective, should be competitive with streaming. We still say you're going to be on Spotify, you want to have that reach, but you also should have a vault strategy of creating rare music that's only in this format.
And it's probably going to be just the top few percent, I'm guessing, of some of the fans, especially for
That's right.
the big artists,
That's right.
that are willing
So
they'll spend any money to
yeah,
get something that's unique.
that's right. And if you're and that's fine because most businesses, what you find is that your top 5% of your customers generate 80% of your revenue.
Mhm.
That's not true in music, but it should be true. It was true 20 years ago whenever it was CDs. It was these sort of avid collectors of CDs that drove revenue for the music
Yeah,
business. It's not so true today. And it's not because consumer behavior has changed. It hasn't. They just they don't have anything to buy today to express their, fandom of that artist.
right. So what kinds of things? Obviously, special versions of the music or live
Mm-hmm.
recordings or just alternate versions.
Yeah.
Are there other things too? Is there artwork that you can
Yeah.
hang on the wall
So
that's unique or?
yeah. So with our format, music's still very much at the core, and I'll,
Mhm.
I'll talk about some of the different versions of music that we see that perform as well. But in addition, musicians can put in video, pictures, handwritten lyrics. Something that does very well is voice memos. Like imagine thinking about a song that you love and then getting to hear the voice memo that the artist used in creation of that song. When the song came into the artist's head, they recorded this short memo, and then that became the building block of the song. We've
Yeah,
done that, and that's been very popular.
it is.
But the three types of music that we've seen most traction with. So number one has been unreleased music. So that might be artists is working on an album. Typically, they have a huge number of songs in there. Like, well, I just don't know what's going to go in the album. They can actually publish some of those songs. We had an artist I was working on an album. He published 8 of those songs in the Vault format. Um, and he said, hey, I'm working on these 8 songs. I'm not sure if all of them are going to make the album, but I want to create a version of this just for my top fans who can come in, buy it, experience it, and also give me feedback on what they like and what they don't like.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so that sold out within 24 hours. It did very, very well. The second type of music we've seen it done really well is live recordings. So,
Mhm.
you might love this artist. They're playing in an iconic venue, whether it's Madison Square Garden or the Bitter End, which is a smaller venue in New York. What if you could listen to them live? live music is typically not on Spotify. It doesn't do as well there, and artists typically don't really want it there, but it does work well in this format. And then the third type of music we've seen do well is alternative versions. Again, think of a favorite song that you have. Imagine the artist put up an acoustic version or a remixed version, and they only put it in this format. That also does quite well.
Hmm. I could see the live, especially if it's a a well recorded, high quality version.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many of them, if you want to see it live, if it's on YouTube, it's somebody recorded on their cell phone in the middle of the
Yeah, on their
audience,
cell phone. That's right.
it's not good.
It's not a great.
But that's
Yeah.
like that first one's a really clever idea for figuring out what songs are going to make the album,
Mm-hmm.
and giving the true fans or early access to the album, and having or letting them help decide what's going to go into the released
Absolutely.
album. That's
Yeah,
very
that's and
clever.
the other thing from the fan perspective is they actually have true ownership here. So this format is well, you don't need to be crypto native. You don't have to touch the crypto. This is actually built on NFTs. And so
Hmm.
when you buy one of these vaults, you have full ownership, which you can resell. And so you start to think, well, what if we've got to work with a small Nashville-based artist called Bella Rose? What if she became Taylor Swift, right? Or the next Taylor Swift? Imagine having one of her only 100 deluxe versions of her single, her first ever single that she released. That would become hugely valuable. Now, if you're a
Sure.
true fan, you would never sell, but it's pretty cool to think about. You're actually collecting things that in future could have a lot of value.
So is there investment potential here? Are there maybe
Yeah,
people that would
absolutely.
speculate on up and coming artists and things like that?
Yeah, I think that will happen. I actually think that's
Okay.
a good thing. If you think about the analogy we make is if you think about some of the art schools, whenever their year's graduating, they'll have like an exhibition, and those artists who are just newly grads they'll sell it out. Like St. Martin's in London, very famous art school, and they'll sell these pieces of art for thousands of dollars. And I think part of the reason is that people like they love to support emerging artists, but they also love the fact that they can discover them early, and these pieces could become hugely valuable if that artist has a very successful career.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that again doesn't exist in music, but it should do. It'd be great. Like imagine owning, Taylor Swift's limited edition first single. Um, there's certain fans that if they own that, they would never sell it, no matter how much it was worth.
No, and
And there's
it's
other ones who would quite happily sell it for.
yes.
But the impact of that is good for all emerging artists because it means that there's this class of people who want to find new music, who can profit from it. But in doing that, they actually sort of bring money forward so that new artists coming in can actually, just like new graphical artists, can actually make money before before they break through.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, I like that approach. So is this you're providing a service, but does somebody open like if I was interested, do I open a vault
Mhm.
account and then all the different assets, the
Y-
different music things, the NFTs that I acquire are kind of all held in that
Yeah,
account to make
so
it easy for me?
so what happens is we work with an artist. They basically we work with them to identify what media they would give us. So
Hmm.
maybe it's a single, an alternative version. We we wrap it in our format. So you should think of our format as a digital version of a CD, for example.
Okay.
And so we basically create this format and then they then can sell it directly to their fans. And typically for singles, it's priced about $5. For albums, it's $25 to $30. And as a fan, basically what you see is you go onto their social media and you'll see that they're selling the single. You click on the link, you buy it, and then you download it to your phone, and then you can play it.
Okay. Interesting. So I realize the business models are a little different between FanDuel
Hmm.
and what you're doing involved.
Hmm.
But what did you learn in FanDuel, or what are some lessons
Hmm.
that you're bringing forward into Vault to help it grow and thrive?
Yeah, I think the biggest one for me was um, I saw the same level of passion in music that we saw in
Mhm.
sports. And so that was and I always love to build in an industry that has that level of passion. It's incredibly hard to build when people are like, meh, I kind of like it. You want
Yeah.
to build for people that are passionate about something. The second thing that just struck us as a dissimilarity was these passionate fans just didn't have certainly in the digital world, they didn't have things to buy. Sports has done an amazing job at to use a business or monetize the top fans, right?
Yeah.
Um, because when you're a top fan, you are spending, hundreds of dollars of NFL Sunday ticket. You are buying, there's all the stuff that you're paying for in order to consume the thing that you love. And
Yeah.
top music fans or betting, for example, the top bettors are worth thousands of dollars. But in music, that wasn't the case. And so we just stunned us as how can people be so passionate about something and not actually spend money? And the more we looked at it, we said, well, it's not their fault. Like they did 20 years ago. In fact, people today buy vinyl, even though this is a really interesting stat, half the people who buy vinyl don't have a record player. And when you ask them why they buy it, well, they'll say, well, I love this artist. Like it's about having a connection, and I I want to support them. And I want something cool to show my friends. Yeah, like that's kind of, it's and so the music,
Interesting.
and so here we have this, like, which I would describe as an antique music format that actually people are collecting because of it's delivering this thing that kind of to some extent the industry has failed to deliver, which is a new digital format that people can collect.
Interesting. I suppose somebody who's my age, because I grew up with vinyl,
Mhm. Yeah,
it's a bit nostalgic, and
that's true.
I mean, all my records are gone, but some of the Pink Floyd and some of the different
Yeah.
ones with the amazing album covers, and you just sit there and look
Mhm.
at the album cover while you're playing the record,
It's amazing.
and
Yeah.
it was a different experience. But it's
Yeah, it's true.
interesting that
And so
this. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And so some of the vinyl recovery is from people of the sort of vinyl era, but actually a lot of it is Gen Z and younger. Um, they want it's a way of collecting the music that they love and connecting with artists that they love, and and we also we don't think that what we're building is competitive with vinyl. We think that vinyl is just we think it's kind of an artifact of the lack of supply, as it were.
Oh,
And we think it'll continue to grow, but we think that one of the problems of vinyl is it is an objectively terrible format for music. It's like
yeah,
I've bought vinyl and I have a record player, but I have regularly bought vinyl that I never play because, well, it's not music that my kids would want to hear. It's also not very convenient. It's not portable, and so it is a terrible format, and still I buy it
yeah.
for kind of the same reasons that other people do.
But and I guess it's a little unique as I just think of it off the top of my head. It's tangible. It's something you can
Yeah.
touch and feel. And even CDs,
Mhm.
you could do that. There wasn't as much to
Yeah.
read unless they put the
Yeah.
little booklet inside. But
Mhm.
today, it's like, yeah, I can see it on the screen, or I can watch a live version.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, we've definitely used like there's a version which is very popular with K-pop, which is a box set. So, you might be the CDs and there's a photo booklet and postcards. And so that's actually been a part of the inspiration of Vault, which is within our deluxe singles. It's not just the music, like we have behind the scenes video, we have a welcome message from the artist, we have handwritten lyrics, we sometimes have the
nice.
stems. So those are the individual vocals, drum set
Okay.
that the fan can download and play. So we want to create this like just a beautiful experience of like opening up this content.
Hmm. It's surprising as I think about it, that it's such a big industry. I mean, I wouldn't say everyone, but probably it's
Mhm.
90% of the population listens to music. And that
Right.
that this entire industry has kind of missed
Yeah.
this opportunity. And but that's
Yeah.
great for you.
Coming
That's great
coming
for
from
Vault.
coming from the sports world, that was just my
Yeah.
kind of just my sort of shock was that this industry wasn't as big as I thought. That it hadn't. What's what I saw with sports and tech is like you know that it had spawned much bigger companies, and music with all its cultural relevance, with all the passionate sort of fan base, just wasn't translating through to the bottom line. And that's what we kind of want to help.
Yeah. Interesting. So to change gears just a little bit, I saw a news
Hmm.
article that earlier this year you closed a Series A
Hmm.
investment round.
Hmm.
It's a tougher market today
Hmm.
than it had been previously. What kind of things did you have to do differently, or are there any tips for being able to close a Series A in this environment?
Yeah, so it certainly is a lot tougher. I'd say it's, I've been raising money for about 15 years. I think it's one of the toughest markets, if not the toughest market. Um, it's definitely easier earlier. So if you're like seed rounds, I would say seed rounds are the market there is actually not that bad. Series A is a lot harder. Series B is like almost dead. That's kind of like it's kind of drops off very dramatically.
Is that because
Um,
you've got, as the seed, you've got a longer runway till they're looking for a positive exit?
My
Or,
impression is that some of the later stage funds have just decided to sit on their hands,
oh,
and said, you know what, we've made investments. We need to preserve capital to protect some of those and sort of triage their own portfolio.
yeah.
Let's not make any new investments for a year. No one else is, so we're not really losing out. Or be very, very selective about what we
Yeah.
invest in.
Okay.
And then some of those funds also, because they've got a team that don't really want to sit in their hands, I think they've said to them, say, like, go and do some seed investments. Like, we're $1 billion fund. If you invest 20 or 30 million in seed capital, that's not like, it means you're active, and it's not going to make any difference to our top line anyhow. And maybe
Yeah.
it'll give us some pipeline further on down the line. And I think that's
Got it.
why we've seen the sort of the market at seed get, hot might be the wrong word, but reasonably liquid. Later stages just really dried up.
Hmm. Interesting. What, so what are you doing today? What are some of the key things, without giving away any secrets, but what
Mhm.
are the things that are most effective in growing your business today?
Yeah, so I think the first one to say back at FanDuel was, start off with a great product. We building this product actually, I think it was more challenging than we expected. Like, we're built on Web3, and the building Web3 is hard. It's probably 2 to 3x harder than building in Web2. It's just quite immature, the
Okay.
technology. But you have to build a great product. And then from there, it's really about finding a route to market. And for us, where we find a route to market is we have to partner with really great artists who have fans. I know it
Yeah.
sounds funny, but we had a few artists early on that didn't have fans, and the product didn't work for them. But
Yeah.
so partnering with artists who have passionate fans, and then that's our route to market. We basically, with that artist, we create a great package for them, and then we help them market to their fans, and build, and then it's just repeat.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So one of the things I know that you're kind of passionate about are building online
Hmm.
communities. So
Hmm.
tell us about that, and how does that fit in with the Vault business model? How do they support each other?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. With FanDuel, we actually built a very strong community. It started, this is going to sound repetitive. It started off, people loved the product. It was a lot of fun to play. Um, the important thing that we discovered was, um, helping them find ways to connect with each other. And one of those ways, to our surprise, was through real world events. We used to run
Hmm.
these big tournaments every year on FanDuel. And as part of that, we would fly like 100 or 200 people to Las Vegas for this final. And that was
Hmm.
actually a way in which a lot of these people got to know each other. And so when they went back and they'd be on forums and stuff, they would kind of know each other. That made the community much stronger. So it kind of bizarrely, actually, every online community that I know that has an offline component seems to be much more vibrant and stronger. Like, people
Hmm.
kind of know each other.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's the other thing, is that, like, building community is hard. And so it requires like constant investment from the company. And so again, starts with a great product, and then it really requires just like really real, diligent investment from the company.
Okay. Interesting. Some of the ones I'm in are, I notice when they have some moderators in there, things just
Hmm.
I don't say stir up conversation, but they keep the
Yeah.
conversations flowing and maybe post some
Yeah.
questions in there to
Hmm.
stimulate some conversations. Those are a lot
Yeah.
more interesting, a lot more engaging. Interesting for
Hmm.
me, whether I engage or
Hmm.
not.
Yeah.
So interesting. What's your? I know you have a lot of different activities, different things that you
Mhm.
do with Vault, but what's the favorite part of the work that you do today?
Hmm. I don't know. I love building product. Like the going from idea through to execution to putting it in somebody's hands. Like it's just a very simple one with Vault, um, which is the idea of gifting. Um, Gifting used to be a huge part of music. You could buy a CD and give it to someone, and it was a cool present
Yeah.
because you had not only purchased it, but you'd actually picked music you thought they would like. And whatever, starting with downloads, but through streaming, it just disappeared.
Yeah.
And it actually was very bad for the music industry. But it also, I think, we lost something, and so we came up with the idea of what if we created gifting? And so with Vault, you can now gift a Vault to a friend, and basically all you have to do is you click a button, it creates a short URL. You text that URL to a friend, they click on it, and you've gifted the one that you own to them. So really incredible. We came up with that a few months ago. I think it took about a month to develop. And now, whenever we demonstrate the product to everyone, we always gift them something, and it's always like a moment of magic. They get a text message, they click on it, and they're like, "Wow!" And they're like, and usually like, "What if you created a copy?" And I'm like, "No, that's the exact one that I had. You now own it." And I think that's
Yeah, that's
that's
cool.
kind of a little bit of magic and just being able to do that, that's cool. I love that part of the job.
So it's gifting the actual NFT,
Yeah,
that one
yeah,
entity.
but and then so the NFT acts as the key which unlocks all the music. So
Okay.
what I can do is, I was chatting to somebody earlier who's related to electronic music. I'm like, I know an artist you'd love. Let me send you a copy, basically my copy of his deluxe single. So that's pretty cool.
Interesting. Hmm. Yeah, and that's a very unique gift. It's truly
Yeah,
original because
exactly.
it's the only,
Hmm.
well, or one of a very small number.
One on
However,
50 or one of a very small
NFTs,
number.
yeah,
Yeah,
however many NFTs were
that's
minted.
right.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so it's must be exciting to find new ideas like that and new ways to
Yeah,
expand
it
the
always. And the
business.
other thing is like signing new artists as well is also just
Sure.
really exciting. Like, artists, it's like, I think being an artist is very like being an entrepreneur. And I see the same challenge for them, and that, they have this idea, they produce something that they think is really cool, and then they're just presented this mammoth task of how do I get this into the hands of people? How do I, and that's really daunting. And the fact that they go and do it, despite the fact that it is really daunting, just means I have a ton of admiration for them. So if we can help them, but that's definitely this company's mission.
Sure. Okay. Well, it sounds like you are. You're providing a good platform for that. What's the biggest challenge that you're facing today trying to grow Vault? Is it
Um,
finding new
yeah,
people and
I think it's, I'd say, we have something that is a new concept. I think in the last year we've somewhat struggled to find the right language to describe what it is, because prior to this, people couldn't own digital assets. Like
yeah,
that didn't really even mean anything.
yeah,
And I'd say because it was built on crypto, I'd say about a year ago we talked a lot more about crypto with artists, and say, well, it's built on NFTs and that means XYZ. And what we discovered was that that didn't really help. A lot of artists had a very negative view on NFTs, and crypto. They felt it was kind of associated with scams. And so what we had to do was find a language that explained the benefit to them without talking about the technology, and say, look, we've created a format that, um, it allows you to sell limited edition, numbered versions of your music, and kind of sort of talk to them about the benefits and what the benefits of the fan were, without really talking about the technology,
yeah.
because the technology just enables it. And I think that was quite hard to kind of get to that, figure out what the balance was, in order to be able to like get them excited about what it could do without drowning them in the technology.
Yep. Understood. I'm a tech person, so I know
Mhm.
you always want to talk data and facts, but
Yeah.
customers, no, what's it going to do for me? What's my
Yeah, what's
benefit?
it going to do for me? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. We definitely fell into that hole.
Okay. So what's ahead for you and the
Mhm.
other team members at Vault for, let's say, the next
Yeah,
year or so?
so it's just to continue. Like one of the things again, which when we talk to artists, is the important thing is that what Vault is a format. Vault, our vision is not that Vault is a player. Our vision is that Vault is a format that you could play on Vault, but you could play on hundreds of other players.
Okay.
You know, we want it when you buy your music that you own it, you can play it anywhere. And in some ways, Vault itself is a demo tape to these artists or to other players, like even the DSPs. Like our vision is one day you go on Spotify and you say, "Hey, I can stream it, or I can play my library of Vault music," because some of the artists I love have only created in this format, and that
Okay.
Spotify would support that. That's a long way off, but that's where we want to get to.
Okay. All right. Interesting. But then I've enjoyed learning about this. Yeah, hearing your stories
Okay,
and how you've built some companies and stuff. And I'm going to look into Vault myself. I hadn't heard of it, so I want to learn some more
that's
about
great.
that.
Thank
What
you.
I'm sure some listeners may have questions or want to learn more. What's the best way
Hmm.
they can reach out to you and
Yeah.
then also find out more about Vault?
So Vault is at vault.fan, or if you go onto the App Store and search for Vault Music.
Okay.
Um, and for me, I'm Nigel Eccles, Nigel, and that's Eccles on Twitter. And I'm
Cool.
reasonably active there.
Okay. All right. I will get links to both of those
Great.
into the show notes so people can find them
Excellent.
easily. So
Brilliant.
I know you're busy. I appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
This was a fun
Hmm.
discussion. I know it's valuable to the audience. So thank you for sharing your knowledge and
Hmm.
what you're working on.
That's great. Thank you.
Mhm.